Hey, I'm Nick Filardi. I co-host with Jason Thielbar on the world's second finest podcast. Every week we talk about 90s Bat books, but we also talk comics, movies, books, TV, both new and old, that we love. What you're about to listen to is an unedited version of that conversation. This is the To Read Pile. Jason, what are you reading?
I am reading recent acquisition, Seeds and Stems by Simon Henselman, another Megan Mogg book. I
Nice.
previously, I think in an early to read pile, recommended Crisis Zone.
Did you
and
bring
this is,
Crisis Zone, or did I bring Crisis Zone?
well, I know I recommended Crisis Zone to you, but I forget which one of us brought it. I know I know I've mentioned
I read
Meg Mogg and Owl and Werewolf Jones.
Yeah, I read Crisis Zone. So 2 years ago, over Christmas break. I know this is your to read pile, and now I'm talking, but I'm talking now, Jason.
It's everyone's to read pile.
It's everyone's to read pile. So I remember 2 Christmases ago, I kind of went full ham on like everyone's like best of the year lists, and just every single list I could get, like whether it had overlap or not, I was like, I'm just going to read all of them. And Crisis Zone was on one of those best of the year lists. And I was not ready for the level of insanity of like, because it was like, it'd be like, hey,
you were familiar with the characters. Like I was familiar with the characters.
I went in
when
totally
he started doing
blind.
Crisis Zone on his like I read it first on his Instagram as he posted it.
Yeah. So I was like, oh hey, the new Nightwing trade's supposedly pretty good, and I'll check out this Crisis Zone thing. And I was like, oh my god, like Jason, when the trash bag full of dildos comes out and they start making jokes about it, I was just like, this place is a place I want to live in for however many pages it has. I'm like, I am down. What is this terrible place with these terrible people?
Oh yeah, totally. And that's what's in Seeds and Stems. Seeds and Stems is a you could just get it's a collection of early Meg Mogg, and I call it Megan Mogg. I don't know if there's an official like kind of name for the world,
Sure.
But that's to me is how I first encountered them. So I always call it Megan Mogg, and then there's Owl and Werewolf Jones and Dracula Jr.
Yeah.
And it's the same. It's just such beautiful artwork. And the cartooning, like it's just pure cartoonist like artwork, which I said, which I hope people understand that when I say cartoonist, I mean that as like a high, like, like a badge of honor, like it's sort of a true cartoonist. And that's what I think Simon Henselman is. And you're right. It's still, it's wild. And it can like swing also from like just the craziest, most absurd, disgusting thing to just like bone crushing, cynical depression.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
And it's just, but also the art too is just so, I can't ever say enough of how much I love these books, because the art is also just right out the gate. It's so singular themselves. It's such a singular, true vision, like already, which like sometimes people can take their entire career to find like a voice, to find this like clear way, this clear visual way of representing things. And
I will say,
from these early strips, you found it pretty automatically.
If it hits the same level of Crisis Zone, then like I'm in. Like,
yeah, there's a few stories, because there are collections of stories and stuff, so it's not a continuous beginning, middle, end like Crisis Zone was. But yeah, it gets there.
So as I was reading this and all the other end of the year stuff that I was reading, I was like updating my Discord, being like, hey, I'm reading this now, like, and I liked it or I didn't like it, like I'd chat about it. And I felt like I was just like every other page, I was like taking screenshots and like posting them on Discord, because it was like, look at this absurd thing. Look at this absurd thing. Like, can you believe this? Like, this is hilarious. Like it was just like all the way through so fucking rad. I gotta get Seeds and Stems. I gotta check that out.
Yeah. Seeds and Stems, and like honestly, any Megan Mogg collection,
Yeah.
is just always like highly recommend from me. But yeah, but Season Stems I've been wanting to get for a bit, and I'm not complete with it yet, but very very happy with it, and the format of it too. I love how it's this like chunky, like almost manga esque style,
Hell yeah.
collection, and like and all of the and all the pages will have like different colors. It'll be different color pages too. So it really does give the feeling of like, like these stories were like collected from different zines and different places where they first appeared. You
Right.
know, so so maybe the story, I don't know if these stories originally did like this one, like come printed on pink paper. Like maybe it did because sometimes like zines do.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just like, yeah, everything about it's great. So like, yeah, Seeds and Stems by Simon Husselman. Uh,
Nice.
you got any depraved drug use and sexually depraved stories you've
No,
been reading?
no, Jason. No. I'm a good kid. Jason?
Christian comics, huh?
Well, no. Jason,
Nick?
the game is afoot.
Ooh.
I'm bringing some mystery comics to me to the
Oh
to
shit.
read pile. Have you heard of Friday?
I have. That's Ed Brubaker's, and I apologize to the artist.
Marcos
I'm
Martin.
forgetting. That's right. It's their story on Panel Syndicate that I've been meaning to get through there because I absolutely love
So
the idea of Panel Syndicate.
I don't okay. I thought it was on Substack. Is Substack different? I don't even know. Like okay, Substack
Yeah.
came around and Panel Syndicate came around, and I was like, I'm 30 or 40 years old and I do not need this. Like, so I'm just gonna tune it out, not pay attention to anything that's happening there. However, as you can see, they come out in paper. So
Yeah.
I saw the book. I think maybe Hoke Hoquin in my Discord recommended it. He was like, I read this, it's super good. You should check it out. And it looked right up my alley. It's kind of teen investigating stuff, but
Yeah.
like Nancy Drew Hardy Boys, but it's Ed Brubaker, so it's like there's a lot more going on than just teens investigating stuff kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's very, very good. Stars Friday, who's kind of like on this edge between being a child and being an adult, and she's pulled into this world that her best friend Lancelot Jones is like a detective, and he's a kid detective. He's like hyper intelligent, like skipped grades, is working these cases because like the sheriff isn't really great in this like small town in like the 60s or 70s. And it's the way they describe the world is that like it looks like an idyllic small New England town until you like scratch a little bit under the surface, and there's kind of like occult things that are happening there, and like, you know, different religions that are just under the surface that are like,
Yeah.
secret
Weird
societies.
goings on.
Yeah, yeah. So it
Yeah.
has an element. It doesn't overtly like jump you into supernatural stuff when it starts. It's very much like Friday's story of like coming back home from college, and there's this thing between her and Lancelot Jones that's like unresolved. Uh
Lancelot Jones is a great character name.
yeah. So Friday and Lancelot Jones have this thing that's unresolved between them, and she wants to get to it, but he's kind of just like obsessed with the case kind of thing. So she gets
Yeah.
pulled into this case that like just absolutely escalates. Book 2 just came out. I don't want to spoil anything. I'm trying to be vague as possible because the book is so damn good, and I want everyone to read it. The first volume printed a little bit dark, so just a heads
Mhm.
up, but the second volume they kind of like adjusted and printed fantastic. The art is exceptionally good. Marcos Martin and the colorist on this, I'm gonna get this name wrong. Munza Vincente. It has to be someone not in America. I don't know. Maybe they are in America. I don't know. But I'm sorry that I stumbled over that name because the colors in it are so good. It's like limited palette stuff. The palettes they choose, like, kind of break my brain. Like, it's just very much not stuff that I would choose, but is
Yeah.
executed so well at such a high level that I'm like, "Oh shit, that's a good idea." And then I'll like turn the page and I'll be like, "Oh shit, that's another good idea."
Yeah, yeah, like flavors you wouldn't have thought to put together, and you think in your head, in your professional opinion, wouldn't work, but you're eating, and you're like, "Oh shit, this is really good.
Yeah,
How'd they
yeah,
do
yeah,
this? How'd
yeah.
they do this with this stuff?"
I've taken a few like quick shots with my phone just to be like, I gotta remember this one.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome. That's
yeah.
fucking great.
A really beautiful sense of place with the town and all the architecture and vehicles and character. It's just so good. Like Ed Brubaker like wrote the hell out of it. Man,
Oh, yeah,
I
Brubaker's always, he's someone who's, an automatic buy for me,
right.
like, no matter
Right.
what book, like, if his name is on it, I'm like, "I'll give this a shot,"
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
it's been like that with Brubaker for, like, he's been one of those guys for me for, like, almost going on 20 years at this point where, like, if I see his name, I would just always like, "Well, this'll be something," you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I picked up Friday at the same time that I picked up. Have you read the Hobbstown mystery books?
No,
Oh,
no.
dude, you would love these. I should have brought those books. There's two.
Is that Brubaker too?
It's not Brubaker. There's 2 of
Ah,
them that
okay.
are out. They're on my shelf over there. There's 2 of them that are out. The Case of the Missing Men is the first one, and it's like same thing. Teen detective club in a small town, but like it's a very weird small town with very strange people, and then it like escalates in strangeness. Uh it's written and drawn by a childhood friends who just like decided to make this thing. And it blows my mind because like I think that I don't know if they pitched it and it got picked up somewhere or like what exactly was happening, but I think they self-published it and it's like 500 pages of self-publishing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like
That's
the Case of the
amazing.
Missing Men is like a huge book and it will reward you for spending the time in. Jason,
Oh, man.
teen
I'm gonna get that
mysteries.
on a list.
Yeah. You in
I
particular,
just
because I know you're like high on that indie bullshit. Like
Oh, I love it.
you
And
will love
self-publishing too.
you will love Case of the Missing Men, and you'll pick up the next
I'm
one
sure.
immediately.
Well, and speaking of indie bullshit, I think we would also though just be remiss not to mention, so what Panel Syndicate is it's
Yes.
this website that Brian K. Vaughan of Y: The Last Man and, Saga and various other things fame, using he started it years ago, to first publish, this book, Private Eye, which I again apologize to the artists, I forget the artist he co-created the book with, but the whole idea behind Panel Syndicate is that it's pay what you want, and at first the comics were supposed to meant to only be online and be pay what you want and be just a different way for people to buy comics digitally that could
Hmm.
go like 100% to the creators, you know. And so you know, the books can be published if they want them to be published. It's up to the creators, you know, it's up to them, the people who, you know, do the books. But
Yeah.
the idea is that like you can pay $0 if you wanted, you know, or you can pay 5 or like whatever you think is reasonable. And and Brian K. Vaughan's already done a few stories on there that have gotten like great reviews. Private Eye was really good. I haven't
Huh.
read Border, I think it's Border or Borderlands yet that he did. There's a few other series on there that are look really fun, like Umami that I really want to get into. And then of course, you know, Criminal with like Ed Brubaker.
Yeah.
And I think like Ed Brubaker's probably also trying to lend his clout that I know he has of just, you know, being as popular as he is and whatever industry ties he has, he
To
knows
the
that like it'll
site.
get more
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it'll get more eyes on it. And so if you're really itching to read it, to read Criminal kind of like I am, like you could go to panelsyndicate.com and, you know,
Pay
pay
what
what
you
you
want
want. And
for
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and if money's tight right now, you can even, like, just download it for free and maybe throw them some money, you know, a bit later, like, whatever
Sure,
you can,
sure.
and I think it's such an interesting model, and I'll always support that, and I also always love when people like, Vaughn know that they have a particular standing that is rare, in such a tiny industry, you know, big fish, small pond, but he's still using his, you know, the amount of clout that he knows he has to
Yeah.
try to further things to be, well, like, to support the creators the best they can. Like, he could very well have just, like, probably gotten a nice, like, exclusive
Sure.
deal from one
Yeah.
of the big
Yeah.
2 or something, but, like, he's like, "No, I'm gonna get those books anyway if I want." Like, I'm sure he has an agent and, like, whatever
Sure.
however it is he's constructed his career, he's like, "Oh, why not use this power that I have to make comic books because I fucking love comic books, and, like, oh, they're so expensive, and, like, even these other sites are so expensive. How about a public radio model?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
let's see how it works,
That is
because I'm
rad.
successful enough already that if it failed, like, he would have been fine, and, like, but yeah, it is really rad, and so it might also be why, the colors were a little weird, because at
That's what
first
I
they might not
yeah.
have known if they were gonna publish it,
I
so,
knew it
like,
was
it could at least exist online
yeah, I
forever,
knew it was online first before it came into print,
Yeah,
and, for
yeah,
anyone who doesn't realize, you have a greater range of colors, like, you get more colors with a screen. The way that, like,
yeah,
a screen creates color, um, is additive, and then CMYK is subtractive. So it's like the color gamut is larger, and because of that,
yeah.
you can get, like, finer details between them on a screen, and then when it hits print, it's like, "Oh, everything printed dark." And it's like, "Well, it looked great on
Yeah,
the screen," like, I don't know.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, because when you're printing something, despite modern printing techniques, there's really only so far you can bring different, gradients the way,
right,
well,
right.
like you said, the palette of
So, you know what
the range of what you can use is because it's locked in
right,
on the
right, right.
printed page.
Uh, so it reminds me of this is a odd anecdote, but, like, I, Shannon's friend at work had a fantasy football league, and they were doing a thing where they were all different superheroes, and they wanted to do a poster for the final 2 teams who were, like, in the top 2, going head to head
Yeah,
into the finals. And
yeah, championship game, yeah.
right, right, right. And, so they wanted to make a poster of, like, Spider-Man and Captain America facing off. So I did a piece for them. Shannon, like, roped me
Oh,
into it, and I was like, "I
that's
guess, I guess."
yeah,
But
yeah,
so
that's fun.
I did, like, the cover of, Secret Wars with Spider-Man in the black suit, and he's like this, and there's, like,
Yep,
everybody fighting in the background. So I
yeah,
photoshopped out Spider-Man and, like, kept everybody fighting in the background and just had, like, Captain America and Spider-Man, like, about to duke it out, and it said, Secret Wars Football Edition or whatever, and, like, had, like,
yeah,
their trophy on there and everything. I took it to the
that's awesome.
printer to, like, just a whatever Kinko's, like, mom and pop, like, version of Kinko's was in town,
Yeah.
printed the thing, and the person actually went, "Oh, wow, these you got really good color on this." Like, when they were looking at the printable thing, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, there's a good reason for that, why
Well, yeah,
that aspect turned out really well."
don't you have a story? I seem to remember that you have a story that, like, one of the first books you ever did, like, on your own, you learned a pretty harsh lesson of, like, once you saw the printed book, you were like, "Oh,
Oh,
fuck,"
dude,
like, I just, like,
yeah, I learned that lesson
completely screwed, like, because I know
the
that's always been so important for you.
it was so hard for me to grasp early on, and
Mm,
I took, it was a backup for a DC thing, and they wanted to make it, like, gritty with a lot of texture, and I was, like, multiplying a lot of stuff down, which darkens it, and it looked
yeah,
fine on my screen, and this was, like, to give you an idea of the era this was in, I was using, like, a CRT 4 by 3 monitor for this stuff,
yeah.
which is,
Is
like,
is this when
wild
you still
that's a was a thing, I don't know.
yeah, when you still had the G5? Is this still the G5 days?
I might have even been,
Or is
like,
this after the
previous to that, I don't even remember. Anyway, like, it looked fine on my screen, and I would send it in, and then my editor was getting frustrated with me because he was like, "It's dark," and I'm like, "It's not dark," and then eventually they had to rope in, like, bullpen guys to be like, it's fucking dark. Here's why, you know? And I had to be like, oh my God, I'm fucking it up. Anyway,
Yeah.
moral of the story is you can fuck up a job and still work in this industry.
That's actually honestly, that's a pretty that I think the moral of the story is that yes, you can fuck up a job and still work in this industry, but you have to honestly learn from it
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and
I
continue
like,
to learn from it.
yes. After that, I was
You
like,
know?
I have to, lock this stuff in. And it became very
Y
important for me over the course of
Yeah.
the next like 3 years. Cause it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I know it's too dark now. Let me like lighten up or darken up my monitor so that it echoes the page a little better. And I think I got it,
Yeah.
but let me do a project. And then in 4 or 5 months, when the project comes back and I look at it physically, then I'll be like, oh, still needs an adjustment. And like, it was like that for like 3 years, basically.
Yeah, but, it's just one of those, like, again, the lesson of, like, sometimes it's like the simple thing can be the hardest thing, because it's like the
Right.
simple, like it's like the idea of like gaining muscle is usually pretty simple, which is that like you need to eat more and you need to like lift weights of
Lift.
some
Yeah. Yeah.
sort or like, but like, okay, then go and do it. It's
Right.
like the
Right.
reason why not everybody is walking around super jacked because like, sure, it's a
Right.
simple idea, but it's like a hard in execution. It's like, oh, I have to make things like, slightly lighter, like that's all. It's like, well, sure, broadly,
Right. Right.
but
Right.
there's so much more that you have to pay
Yeah.
attention
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
and you have to like,
And
you know,
by the end of the 5 years, I started like, or 3 or 4 years, or however long it took me to kind of start to wrap my mind around that. Um, I started getting like the monitor right. And then after that, I started to be able to look at like actual ink percentages and be like, this is going to print too dark. This is going to print right. Like I
yeah.
started getting into like the nuance of the fucking math within it. Just like, which is stupid that I ever had to do that, but
Well,
is
I mean, I don't
reality.
think so.
It's just reality of the job.
Well, yeah. Well, I think also it's just more to the point of like, you've been doing this job for like coming up on 20 years and there are still things that you like have to pay attention to and have to
Absolutely.
like, these things that like become basic but are so important and I think
Yeah.
that's such an important lesson to take away in any job is that like, don't like and job is like job for yourself and like working on
Sure.
your craft
Sure.
and stuff is like don't neglect like the basic things,
Right.
and it might and that can be so hard too. Like it can be so hard to like what I'm trying to get back to with my drawing is like making sure every day I sit down and just draw circles and
Yeah.
just draw cubes and just draw lines because it's so important and it's tough to keep up doing every day,
Sure.
but like it yeah, you get rewarded with it at the end where like now you said like now you're at the point where you're like, "Oh, you're just you can like look at ink levels now and kinda
Right.
start to go, "Oh, okay, I'm getting a feel." I'm getting a bit but not so now you're
Right.
so much more fine-tuned. Like if you would have told yourself that 15 years ago, be like, "Don't worry, I got a formula that you can just sort of look at." You'd be like, "Oh my god, this is amazing."
Right,
But
yeah.
you had to get to the you
It's
had to
not even a
walk up the
formula, dude.
stairs to
It's
get
like
there.
it's just like I look at the thing and I'm like, this is too much ink down on the page. And it's like, I don't know how past me couldn't just like take the ink dropper, grab a color, like the darkest color on the page, and be like, this is clearly wrong. Look at these percentages. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like
People that like
I didn't even think to do that, you know?
Well, yeah, people think it's a magic trick when someone like is a mechanic, like my brother is. Like sometimes people think it's a magic trick where like, oh my god, you can just like listen to a car's engine and tell what's wrong. And he's
And
like,
it's like you
well,
listen
not
to an
really,
but you
but
listen to enough
also sometimes,
engines, it's like
yeah, over the course of over
right.
20 years with 8 to 12 hours a day, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, eventually, like you're gonna
Yeah,
start to
right, right.
intuit like, oh, when it's acting like this, typically it makes this weird sound. So it's
Yeah.
probably
Right,
this
right,
thing. It's like, yeah, you don't get that after like a year.
right. It's just experience.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
way off the rails, Jason.
No, I know. I'm sorry. I'm
I
sorry.
need to
I'm
I
good.
need
I'm good
listen,
for that. I'm good
listen.
for being off the rails.
I need to bring us back because
Okay.
the game is afoot, Jason. just like I had said before,
Uh-oh.
it continues to be afoot. I also read this was the
Oh, shit.
dense read that I was, like, trying to get through. I think I commented
Oh,
a couple of
yeah.
times. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
Honor Among Punks, the complete Baker Street graphic novel by Guy Davis and Gary Reed. This is early Guy Davis stuff. He is popular for BPRD work. Also The Marquis, which is Dark Horse book that came out previous to that stuff. He is also known for doing a lot of concept design stuff for uh Del Toro, the
Oh, yeah,
horror
Guillermo del
director. Yeah,
Toro.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Love Guillermo del Toro. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He
That's
does a lot
awesome.
of, like, concept design and stuff like that. I don't think he does a lot of comics these days, but, this is you remember when we were talking about Batman and there was the punks that were like the Three Stooges in
Yeah,
Gotham,
yeah.
and it was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I can tell Mike Manley's, like, kinda having fun with this." Like, that felt like because I was reading this at the same time, trying to get through it, and that felt like the Walmart version of, like, what punk is. And this is,
Yeah.
like, so through and through, like, you really get, like, a glimpse into, like, the punk scene in, like, the '80s in London, like, the way that it was, with this book. It's so here's the thing, I didn't bring it to the mainline to read pile, and this is the reason. It is a hard read. Like,
Mm.
it is what this book is Sherlock Holmes gender flipped with a LGBTQ, like, punk scene. So, and they, like, really go for it in a really,
And this
like
takes place in the
it
early '80s,
in the
like
early
early
'80s,
'80s punk.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
made in '89, I think, with Guy Davis, like, started this. So,
Okay.
um
But the scene of, like, the book
yeah, it's
itself
all
is
'80s.
earlier
Yeah,
than that.
maybe a little early, probably contemporary for the time. I'm not
Oh, okay, okay.
exactly sure. They don't exactly
Yeah,
come
just
out and say it.
yeah, musically, I was just trying to place it in my head of, like,
Sure, sure.
what it was like then, yeah.
Um, so it's Sherlock Holmes stories, basically. Their own
Yeah.
stories, not parodies of, the Moors and dogs and whatever. But, like,
Yeah, yeah.
uh it's their own stories, but because it's Sherlock Holmes, it's like not everything Sherlock Holmes doesn't really get involved in action. It's a lot of, like, the violence has happened and now he's gonna solve it, you know? So it's
Yeah, yeah.
a lot of dialogue, a lot of talking heads, and they try to make the text, like, instead of saying "you," "you," they'll do "o apostrophe" to make it, like, kind of like
Phonetic.
Cockney act yeah,
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 phonetic.
phonetic.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it stays like, English,
Yep.
and on top of that, I think it's hand lettered, which at times kinda gets a little rough. I suspect that I have a little bit of dyslexia going on. This book was a challenge, Jason. This book was a challenge to get through. For these reasons, it's, like, not for somebody who just wants an easy breezy read. It's
Yeah,
for somebody, and it's also, like, 12 issues of comics, so it's long. Not only is it, like,
yeah.
dense, but it is long. So, you gotta really want it is is my point. But the thing that, like, drugged me through it was, like, Guy Davis just being an absolute fucking monster at drawing. Like, he is
Yeah, yeah.
and he starts in this place that's, like, way more cartoony, way more, like, bubbly than where he ends. Like, he ends closer to BPRD and further away from where he started, which is, like,
Yeah, yeah.
you get to see that, like, transformation happen. It's awesome. Awesome.
I do love seeing, the evolution, of an artist, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I also love, like, I really have been wanting to check this out in the, other times we've talked about it because, like, I also love checking out an artist's earlier work. Like if I first hear about them when they've already more fully formed,
Yeah.
because it's just interesting to see like where they started from and like what kind of things they were playing around with early on, and then
Yeah,
seeing
there's
where
2
where
things
they
that
were, where their style was like at the beginning, you
yeah,
know?
there's 2 things that Guy Davis is doing or not doing early as opposed to, like, late in the book. He's, like, very bubbly, a lot of simplified, anatomy, more cartoony, and
Yeah.
you can tell that he's putting down some Zipatone and some grunge, but he hasn't, like, totally figured it out. But you can see where there's, like, little points of, like, where he's like, "Oh, this was a good idea. Like, I should do this again." And then you see it again, and he's, like, leans into it a little bit more, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you get to, like, the end, and it's just, like, there's shots where it's, like, a rainy alley, and it's all Zipatoned, and you can, like, feel the light hitting the raindrops because he's putting so much fucking Zipatone and grunge down on this thing, and then just, like, shredding some of that stuff out or, like, whiting it out. It's just, like, it's so good. And he also is doing a thing that, like, I feel like has gone by the wayside. He is drawing the fuck out of some backgrounds. Oh my god, Jason. Like, the architecture in this book is so good. It's so good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think I always love to see that too, because, like, I love that, like, because I think one of the many things that manga gets right, and that I think one of the big influences and, since the '90s manga boom in America that it's had on American comics is that, like, "Oh, draw your fucking backgrounds, man." Even if they're not super detailed,
Yeah.
put your character backgrounds because it's going to place the reader in the world a lot more
Yeah.
if it's
One of
not
the
always, and then that way you can use, like, an empty background for more impact
yeah,
when it does happen.
one of the problems that I had, it's not a problem, but, like, one of the things that I was noticing in Chainsaw Man was they would be like, "Hey, here's one background," and then it would be, like, 8 pages of no background. And it's like,
Uh,
it at a certain point, you become, like, kind of unmoored, and, like,
yeah,
that never happens in Honor Among Punks. Like, Guy Davis is just drawing the ever loving fuck out of everything. That's another reason why it's so
just filling it up.
dense, you know? It's
Yeah,
because, like,
yeah,
you really inhabit that world. Um, I wish it was
yeah,
I wish it was a little more legible. I wish it was a little, quicker of a read, like, but it was made in the late '80s, so
and he was still
he
younger
was
in his
younger.
development, like, yeah,
Right,
like,
like, it's of the time, like, when, I was reading Friday, this thing is such a breeze, like, it reads so well because it's, modern Ed Brubaker writing it, like,
yeah.
he knows where to put dialogue, he knows where to let it breathe. Honor Among Punks never lets it breathe. It's dense all the way through.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well,
I
it's like young filmmakers always get, knocked, and it's still true, but they always get knocked for making, like, their early films being longer than they should be. You
sure.
know?
Yeah, yeah.
Where it's like because, like, everything's so precious to them, and then,
Right.
like, after the fact, they're like, "Yeah, I probably could have cut, like, 30% of that, and it would've been a lot better." But, like, when
You
you're a
just
young
can't leave it
storyteller,
alone.
like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, everything's so important because you're just like, "I
Right,
spent so much time on this, I need to tell
right.
everything,"
Yeah,
because
yeah.
if I leave it off the table, then, like, I would have worked on it for nothing, and then, like, you get older and, like, you realize, like, a more mature storyteller will be like, "I can have background on a character that's just for me and not have it in the actual story,
Sure,
and
sure.
it'll probably serve me
Um,
better, and the story will be, like, lighter and more to a point."
I was, shocked at, like, how well this book handles, trans issues and stuff like that,
Mm,
stuff that surrounds
yeah,
that. Um, this book is also, 2 murder mysteries. It's like a 6-issue one, and then, like, a 5-issue one, and then, like, an extra issue of, like, odds and ends and stuff. So, and I will say that the first issue is the toughest read. Like, the first arc is the toughest read
yeah,
out of everything. gets a little easier towards the back end of the book. But yeah, I the only reason I can't like give it the full throat recommendation is that it's just a monster to try to get through. It's not an easy book to read.
I mean, I think the challenge of it though, I think I would like, not having read it yet, but like I think that actually like kind of like makes me more interested even
Yeah.
to read it because like it's just
I think
it's more
okay,
informative.
let me
I think it's informative that like it is dense because like maybe like because here
it's
here's another
okay,
thing like
okay,
sure
okay. It's not just
yeah
the density. It's
yeah
also that like they're trying to tell this mystery and you know that at the end like Sharon Holmes is going to solve it. But like
yeah
there's not enough information for you to solve it along the way with her.
oh
So
okay
so
okay
you really like in this like these dense pages just trying to like get to the end. You know what I mean? Like you're just like
yeah
fuck's
yeah
sake, just like I want like get to the end of the mystery. I want it explained to me. Or like if you're not going to get to the end of the mystery and we're ratcheting it up, like let's do that. Like let's put me there. You know what I mean?
yeah yeah
Instead of
yeah
just like dancing around it and like chit chatting and like, it's just it's comics the way they were made in like 1989, especially European
yeah
comics. But like,
oh
yeah.
yeah yeah
Um,
totally
I think if you can,
I do really want to check it out though.
yeah, it's out of print. I don't know if it's ever going to come back into print. I found my copy on Amazon. I don't know. You could probably get it on the shitty Jeff Bezos site, but like,
I'll look for it.
yeah,
I'll look
yeah,
for it.
yeah. Just like keep it in your mind when you're at used bookstores. See if they got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Cool, man. That's all I got. No, didn't read any more Green Lantern.
Might be giving up. Might be giving
No,
up the
not giving up, just, like, got overwhelmed with work this week, didn't have as much
oh.
time. I only had enough time to read 200 pages of Friday and then a handful of issues to finish off Honor Among Punks, and then read all the Batman stuff that we read, and then write everything up. Jason, I'm only one man, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I know. I finished all the I finally finished that the imposter book,
Oh, you
which
did?
is which was great. And then like yeah, the Batman stuff and then I wanted to read Seeds and Stems and then
Yeah,
also
yeah.
I wanted I'm finishing up Berlin as well, which speaking of dense, but also speaking
Man,
of backgrounds and like so I've been reading a lot more and holy shit.
I got it
Yeah, dude.
in arm's reach. I This thing has been taunting me
Oh
on the
god,
table. Like, I
it's so gorgeous though. It's
I
just
got it
so gorgeous.
with, the Showa manga that, I had talked about. I brought it to read, like, maybe 4 or 5 episodes ago.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I was like, "I'm gonna buy some historical fiction comics for my nephew because he loves history." And then I read Showa and I was like, "I don't think he'd like this." And then I was like, "I gotta screen Berlin before I give it to him," kinda thing. And then
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, "Oh, shit, that means I gotta read Berlin." Ugh.
Oh, it's so beautiful
It's
though.
a
It's just
beautiful
so
book. It's just it's an intimidating size.
no, I know, but man, it's just so I've reread the first half of the story so many times because it's just something that like man, like to me it's just like God, I don't know. Like I can't say enough about like how to me it's such an ideal not that all comics should always be made this way because I don't think that way about anything, but like, it's just such a like meticulous but also like doesn't feel like it's meticulous sort of
Sure.
thing.
Yeah.
Like well done story. It's like when you see like it's like a beautiful guitar solo, right? Where like it's complicated and it's hard to be able to play that, but it just seems so effortless. You know what I
Right.
mean? It just seems that like Eddie Van Halen's fingers are just like dancing up and down the frets with almost like no thought.
Sure.
And it's
Sure.
just kind of like what Berlin is like to me. It's like I know all the you can see the 1,000 pages, like how much work went into
Yeah.
it, but when I fall into it, I'm immediately in the fucking Weimar Republic.
Yeah.
Like I'm in these people's lives right away. There's just like every beautiful little like I can't gush enough about maybe on the next two read pile. I know I'll have it finished by then. I'll rant even more about like the reasons why like I love the book like so
Yeah.
much and why I think it's such a singular like achievement in the medium,
You
you
think
know.
you think you're gonna finish by the next 2 read pile? Well, we're taking a 2 read
Uh,
pile off because we're doing the annual next time. So,
oh yeah, definitely. So absolutely 100% I'll have that.
uh,
I'll have that finished. Yeah.
maybe maybe I might attempt some of it and we can both chat about it.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah, fuck
see.
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, yeah, because like I said, I had the first 2 volumes. I used to have the single issues actually when it was, originally I forgot if Lutz was self-publishing it. I know it was Black Eye Press. I'm not sure if that was him or someone else, but it wasn't,
Hmm.
D&Q at first, and that's when so, like, that's how long I've been, like so I'm
Yeah.
also e excited to finally complete the story, you know?
Nice, dude. Nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Alright.
God, I love comics, man.
Yeah, man. Comics are good. All
Pretty good.
comics are good. I'm also this is a little just a little taste of a future to read pile.
Mm.
I stumbled into I was in a comic shop and I was going through some back issues and I noticed there was a Batman Aliens crossover, but it was drawn by Bernie Wrightson. So I was like, fuck yes.
God damn.
So I picked up the first it's 2 issues. I picked up the first one and then I got the other one on eBay and that's sitting in a post office box that I'm like I got to get that thing and find out how it ends cuz it's very very good. Bernie writes and drawing aliens. How can I say
Yeah,
no? How can I say no?
how can yeah, fuck yeah. I agree wholeheartedly.
All right, Jason. Where can people
Alright,
get a
man.
hold of you?
People can get a hold of me, it's still on the Twitter machine
Yeah.
at King of Black Acid, also at World's Second Finest.
Yeah.
I missed a week there at World that's World Second with the 2, the numeral 2 in the middle.
You know
I
how
missed
I
a
could
week.
tell you know how I could tell you missed a week?
Huh.
I missed a week promoting it too. Uh our numbers reflected it.
Oh,
People see your tweets, Jason. They see them and then they click the link. That's what happens.
people see the song parody thing that I
Yes.
have going that I'm way too proud of
Yeah, you've done a song parody
for the
for
dumb.
every single issue. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, everyone that I've posted, like, since, like yeah,
Yeah,
I've got I got to,
gotta keep it
I'm an
rolling.
artist, Nick. Yeah, I'm an artist, okay?
Jason,
That's how I
let me
express
ask you
myself.
this thing.
Yeah,
I got a question for you. Should people tell other people about this show?
I would. I would if I'm a fan, if you're a fan of it, yeah, I think
Yeah,
I
I think that's
would
a
I would really appreciate, spreading the word
yeah, yeah,
about
yeah.
this show,
Yeah.
about these 2 silly guys talking about
Thought you were gonna give me
comic
a
book.
SNL Wild and Crazy Guys right there. I don't know what we were doing. Anyway,
I didn't either.
you can find me at linktree.com/nickphil. I'm also gonna be on Rough Cuts, that podcast. They are 2 of my buds, Boix and Cam. They watch bad movies with good boys in them. So it's all dog centric movies, basically. It's a
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah, they've watched some gems. We are going to be watching Godzilla 98. I'm very excited
Oh,
about it because that movie's
not
a pile of trash, but like I also I have a deep affinity for Godzilla and I desperately want to talk about the movie with them because I think it's going to be a blast.
did they already cover I think it's the Shaggy Dog 3
Oh,
where
yes.
there's a famous scene where the dog, like, just, like,
Oh,
right
yes.
hook punches.
Yes. Yes. They let me tell you, they've pulled some excellent gifs out of these movies, out of these dog
Oh,
movies. There's
man.
one of my favorite gifs they've ever done, and they'll post them up on their Twitter feed too. It's at Rough Cuts. Is there's one of like a dog that's standing in a window, and like a fake arm like comes up with a cup of coffee, and the dog just like takes a sip and then like puts the arm down. It's very very good. It's very very
That's amazing.
good.
That's amazing. You know what? Humanity is worth saving. I've changed my mind. Humanity is worth saving. I'll turn off my doomsday devices.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Okay. Alright.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for listening.